Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Communities of Character podcast. I'm Jennifer Hogan, a former high school administrator, and now I serve as a character coach for local schools. On today's episode, you'll get to hear from Pam Green, a retired teacher and administrator who taught elementary education in Illinois for 9 years. She then moved to Georgia, where she worked with special needs students in kindergarten through 6th grade for 10 years before becoming an administrator. She worked for the next 19 years in 3 elementary schools, where she helped to lead staff and students of 2 schools to becoming national schools of character. And in her retirement years, Pam volunteers as Georgia's State School of Character coordinator under the direction of character.org. Pam's mission is to make an impact on school culture, and in this episode, you'll hear about her significant work. Welcome. Hello, Pam, and welcome to the Communities of Character podcast.
Good morning. So nice to be here. Thanks for the special invite.
Oh, absolutely. And I am thrilled to have you on today's episode. And for our listeners to learn more about you and your work with character education, both in the United States and internationally. And we actually met through Dr. Kara Chisholm, who's the state coordinator for character.org. And she told me a little bit about what you're doing. And that led to a conversation between us. And I was so impressed by your story and wanted to share it on our podcast. And so would you just share with our listeners a little bit about your current context?
Okay, well, I am a retired educator, so I use all that background that I've had over the years to help me do my new job, which is called a volunteer. And what I do with my time now, as I think every day is a gift, and you have to really focus on the time you have and using it in positive ways. I feel like that I spend my time now with character.org as the state coordinator for Georgia here, trying to instill character values within the schools here in the South. And during that journey, I have been so honored to make so many contacts with our state schools as well as international schools that they've become involved with as well. So a very exciting part of my day now is spent with not only working with schools in the United States, but also schools that are internationally involved. And the most current one is through a Romanian group of character educators that work through their Bucharest International School. And through their studies, they have become to see how working with United States contacts that they've been able to make their schools even better. And their big goal is to become a country of character with all of their schools. So that has been an exciting journey for me. And I hope that I'll continue to do that kind of work in the days ahead.
Well, that is such an incredible story, and I can't wait to get into it more. But you were an educator for almost 40 years, and you helped to lead 2 schools to becoming national schools of character. How did you get involved in character education?
Well, back in the days when character.org was called CEP, the Character Education Partnership, that was around the year 2000. And I became aware of them as an assistant principal when they would send out letters once in a while saying we would encourage you to become schools of character. And we became interested in what is that all about? And I will tell you why we became interested in that. I worked in a school here in Georgia that had so many various socioeconomic needs of our school. We would have children in poverty come to school with children who had fathers working in Atlanta or at Lockheed or were making $1 million a year working with the computers and technology here in Atlanta. So we had to try to think of a way to bring our family together and to have that understanding that we together were going to be united in a cause. So that's how we actually started. Was when we saw the CEP had sent us information, we started exploring that a little more and saying, I think they've got something. Let's start studying these 11 principles. And the 11 principles have stayed about the same with a few tweaks since that time. But they're very much a settling approach to character that can be done through schools, through your communities, through any kind of employer. It's a settling type of let's be consistent with what we believe. So that was really the most important thing that we did together through our schools was let's make the commitment to make these 11 principles our foundation. And then we went from there as far as how to go about those, how to embed them, how to include students and parents, how to include a service component, and then to continually check on our data for impact and how were we making a difference, not just in our community, but within our own school and within our own belief systems. Because when you decide to take that character journey, it changes you. It changes every person that you're involved with within your school, your bus drivers, your cooks, your custodians, your secretaries, as well as, of course, the teachers who are doing those daily impacts every day.
That's incredible. Well, one of our podcast is to share practical takeaways and ideas for our listeners. And would you just share a little bit more about your experience with leading character education in your previous role as a school administrator?
Okay. So now I'll get into some nitty gritty basically about what we decided to do as far as making a change. First, we decided, as I said, to make that commitment together. The character is going to be our foundation. This is what we're going to look at, those 11 principles. Then we took those 11 principles and looked at what we were doing well already. And together as a school family, we started asking questions, not just of our teachers, but also, like I said, of all the classified people that we had there working with us. We wanted it to be a full school commitment. Mm-hmm. Then we designed a specific group, which was our character ed team. And that was several key teachers, but also we had several parents. Some older students in 4th and 5th grade joined us for that. And then we also had a business partner commitment. So we would look every single month at our data as far as our children's needs in our school. We had some students, like I said, in poverty that had some emotional needs. We had some students with behavioral needs. Why were they acting out? We were starting to ask ourselves those questions. Can we be less reactive and more proactive with our discipline program and try to be more restorative in that type of approach with the kids to find out their why. Why were they behaving that way? Then after we started our character team and had that outreach, we decided that our kids were involved because we did involve them with daily practices, morning meetings, but were they really getting it that they should be the voice of our school? So we decided, instead of just having our little honor groups and that kind of thing, we would like to look at all the kids having a voice. Let's include everyone. So we started taking character applications for who would like to be the student leaders of our school. And that's how we got the kids more involved, with teachers recommending students, not necessarily who had straight A's, but kids they knew that had a good heart and would really like to try to lead our school. So that was a really big change and a really important part to becoming a school of character that we would eventually work on that. Also with the School of Character team and the student part, we decided that if we could get our kids to understand how service was so important, we really thought that would make a change. And it really did make a change. We included service learning through our K through 6 program at the time it was. And every student was involved somehow, either in a class or school-wide project, to make sure all were involved. And I just want to share our very first project, because the teachers were saying, oh, I don't think it can be done. I don't think it can be done. We decided to call our book buddy kids K through 2 and match them with 3 through 6 kids.
Mm.
so that every single K through 2 kid had a buddy in 3 through 6. And we took those buddy times and we used them to have a social time of let's get to know you. Let's think about how we're going to be better people at school. But also, they started writing stories. And I want to tell you how that just became almost like a little miracle for this little school, where we ended up having our K through 2 children write stories with the 3 through 6 kids, helping them with their spelling and that kind of thing. But the illustrations were all done by our little ones. And then those books went out to every single senior citizen place that we had around us. We ended up taking field trips and leaving over 700 hardback books with elderly people. And that's how you can make an impact and a change when you're thinking, oh, we can't do that. You know, the teachers were like, oh, our kids are too little. They're having a hard time writing. Well, have their older buddies help them write, but get their story. So service does make a huge impact, not only on your community, but within those children themselves. When they were giving something that they could give that wasn't expensive, it was something from their hearts. And I think that's when you truly do make a difference.
That is amazing. And talk a little bit about your staff. How did they incorporate the core values in their work and their classrooms?
Well, as I said, you are right. It takes such a commitment on everyone's part. So when we were looking at those 11 principles, the teachers started digging deep to say, you know, I am a good teacher, but this is still something I can do better at. I can do better on using character language every day, using those words that kids need to hear. So they actually wrote their own personal character goals, and they held themselves accountable for that every year as what they wanted to do better, which then reached into the student section of that, where the students decided, you know, we could self-assess too. So to this day, those schools that I worked with Schools of Character, they still have student assessments where they look at their values and make their own goals for the year and how they decide they want to improve in not only their academics, but also being better people. So I think that was a big change too, is when the teachers who were already good teachers decided, how can I be better? And how can I make a conscious effort every single day to talk about character and how it's important, and make sure the kids understand that their character is as important as their academic progress.
Oh, and I love the story about the students' books and visiting, elderly and sharing their stories. And then also about the teachers being reflective and always wanting to improve and really taking the time to, share that with students and to hold themselves accountable and to reflect on that. So what great experiences you had as a school administrator, but now you currently serve as the state coordinator for character.org, and that's a volunteer position. I'd love to hear how that role has impacted your life and beliefs about education.
All right. Well, I will tell you, I spend a lot of time on it still to this day, and I'm even more able to spend time on it now. So why I laugh a little bit is my husband is also a retired teacher, so he probably feels like he's just as much as an expert on character as I am, since he listens to every single type of character meeting or anything I have. He's always involved. But as a volunteer to promote character, first of all, I wanted you to know that it has been so impactful to have those networking times with character.org when they had their national forum live, usually up in DC. It's had to go virtual the last couple of years, but when you get to sit with like-minded people and talk character, it's just amazing, and it will definitely change you. And every year I've learned something from character.org's forum. But from that, I got to meet Kara Chisholm. Dr. Kara Chisholm is the Alabama state coordinator, and I also got to meet Val Galena at Florida. And we just decided together, the three of us, to form the Southeast Region Character Consortium to try to work together to get more interest in character here in the southern states. We know that we've had really good results through the Northeast and now moving out west and more south of Texas now. But trying to get more involved here in the Southeast has been a challenge for all of us. But luckily, through the Hope Institute, which you're a big part of, and it's just an amazing program.
It is.
The way they encourage leaders. And we currently just had our last coffee chat with them. We held character coffee chats as a Southeast Region Character Consortium, and we had the best group of administrators that were coming together to tell their views on what is the best way to instill core values as you take your character journey. And it was an amazing event. So working with my SRCC sisters has been amazing. Also getting the opportunity now to spend more time in my own state. I've been working with the Student Office of Assessment, who's also been reaching out to the Georgia prep programs, and through the teacher prep programs at university is how I think we're really going to be able to be more impactful as future teachers get an understanding that, yes, the curriculum is going to be important, but helping kids be good people is just as, if not more important to their lives, and building those positive school cultures. And as you know, I have been able to reach out now through Linked and through our SRCC Facebook page, and also through my own email, georgiaschoolsofcharacter@gmail.com, to make those connections like with Romania. And I will tell you that Romania has done a wonderful job of trying to help their Ukrainian buddies who have just been so hurt at this time in their lives. And they've started reaching out to Ukrainians. And I got an email this week from a teacher in the Ukraine who wants to know, how can we help our kids build back now that we've had this devastating event in our lives? So I will tell you, it does not cease to amaze me every day of the kinds of impactful outreach that I feel like I've been blessed with since being able to focus more on the 11 principles with our international guests and people that really want to work to be good people across the world. So,
well, that is incredible to see that ripple effect that you're creating and having even internationally. And we may have to have you back for an update and more discussion about your work with the Ukraine and Romania.
Great.
One thing that you wish you had known about character education when you began your career?
Well, I will tell you that when you decide to be a teacher, your heart's already in it, knowing that you're going to be a service leader for the rest of your life. That is your responsibility. That is your goal. And you know you're not going to get rich, but that can't matter to you. What has to matter is you're helping to change lives. So I think what I wish I would have known way back then when I first started is I already knew I wanted to help kids be good people, but I didn't know the impact of having a unified goal as a school could be so impactful. And I think I would have pushed a little more for that because I was one of the leaders of the school when we would have our leadership team meetings. I think I would have pushed a little bit more about, let's have a unified goal together as a school. Let's show everyone we're a school family that has the same views on character and being good people. And let's get those kids more involved and let them know they do have a voice and their voice is valued. And we appreciate them just coming to school every day. When you work for a school system like my very first one, where 80% are on free and reduced lunch, and they walk to school because the bus is not going to come to their homes, and they need to be able to know that school's so important. I'm going to get up and get there. So I think what I would have like to have done more is to make sure all of those I worked with understood it was so important that each and every day we valued those kids being there, and we had a unified goal and an embedded commitment to being a school family.
Yes. Oh, so good. So, knowing what you know now, what's one piece of advice related to character education that you'd give someone who's just starting out as a new administrator?
I think the most important thing is that the staff sees you, you are visible, and they know you're going to share the mission that you have asked them to become a part of. They're going to need to see you in those classrooms. They're going to need to hear you making announcements, talking about how proud you are of their school family. They're going to need you taking part in every service project, going into those morning meetings, watching your students lead morning meetings, commenting about how proud you are of them and how you know their parents are proud of them. So I would say that as you decide to make these commitments to be schools of character, just think about your time here on this earth. You have a limited amount of time. Like I said, my belief is every day is a gift where you get to choose what you do with your time. And I think I would recommend to those administrators, choose your time wisely and know being schools of character and making those changes that are so impactful by embedding things that matter in your school is going to make a huge difference. And then you can be your best every single day and be proud.
So good. So good. What have you read or listened to recently, Pam, that has inspired you?
I will tell you, I love reading articles and books on character ed. I think I've learned something from every single book I've ever read. And one of the things you can do is look on character ed, the character.org website for their free resources, but several books that have really spoke to me and have made me feel like I could be a better person. Just Look Up by Joe Beckman. He's been a speaker at the forum before, and he reaches out to tell you how building those connections is so important. I've enjoyed Dr. Huntley's book, More Than a Bird. Her autobiography is amazing to share with people how no matter how little you have, you can still be important in this world when you have important adults that take time to tell you that you are valued. And that has made a huge difference for anyone, I think, who reads that book.
Yeah.
Dr. Lacona, who I consider the father of character ed, he's written so many books, but the main two books I've enjoyed that I think parents would enjoy to understand their importance in this character journey, because they are important when they're doing those service projects, getting out there, being part of the team. Character Matters and How to Raise Kind Kids. Those two have been really good, impactful books. Houston Craft's Deep Kindness. Houston Kraft, I have to giggle a little bit because I remember him when he was a teenager coming to the forum, and now he's an author and shares with us how it's not okay just to be kind, but you have to dig deeper. And he's written a book called Deep Kindness that makes you evaluate yourself. Are you just being nice, or are you truly going to be kind, which has a little bit of where you give back when you are deeply kind. You're willing to give back. Michelle Borba, of course, Unsell Vegan Thrivers. Those are amazing books. Hal Urban, Choices That Change Lives. And I think Dr. Ginsburg, who actually spoke at the forum recently on building resilience in children and teens, that's an excellent book and very impactful for parents when they talk about how they need to step back and help their children learn how to be independent learners, independent people in life, and how not to give up. And then I just have to throw this one more book at you because I just love Truett Cathy. This is Georgia. He wrote Eat More Chicken, Inspire More People. And I tell you, that man was a true inspiration down here in Georgia for sure, about how he made his own commitment to be a good person and how being a good person is important if you're going to be a good businessman. And he himself adopted and foster cared so many children and changed their lives for sure. So those
Well,
are a few of the things that I've enjoyed reading and share with others.
and that's a great list. And I will be sure to link all of those resources that you've mentioned in our podcast notes, so that our listeners can have that list. And maybe over the holidays, if somebody wants to do some reading, they can check out those books. But those are excellent recommendations. And today has been such a great conversation about your character journey and your incredible work. And as we wrap up this episode, what are the best ways for our listeners to engage with you?
Well, you can always email me at georgiaschoolsofcharacter@gmail.com. I also have a LinkedIn address, which is just Pam Green, Georgia State Character Coordinator. And then on Facebook, we have the Southeast Region Character Consortium that you're always able to see. So just know that I have had a wonderful time getting to talk a little bit about character. I could do it for hours and hours and hours. But I think the last thing I want to make sure I share with you is that it's so important to do data checks and revisit through surveys, through questionnaires, through conversations with your parents and your community members to make sure you're all heading toward the same goal and commitment of having those core values within your school, because you truly do want to be a community of character.
Such great thoughts. And today was such a delight, Pam. I know I'm inspired by your work, and I just appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge as a school leader and as your state's character coach. And just thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for listening to the Communities of Character podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. Thanks again and take care.